Okay, I'm back. It's recycle day. Not recycle, yard waste. Well, it's day to get yard waste out. We had a windstorm here a couple weeks ago. My wife asked me to give her a hand with getting some branches and junk into our bin, and so I went out there and we did some cleanup of some of the branches and junk. So that's what I was doing. But now we're on to, it's dark outside. I guess it is 3:50, but it doesn't, it's just really cloudy. I mean, if it was nice and sunny, it wouldn't be this dark. But alas, it is that dark and cloudy. So where did my mouse go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So, moving on to the next task. We're going to call this day 31.1 because, or point 2. Point 2. Because it is day 31. It's the second time I've been on. So, let's go ahead and finish working towards getting my plays executed. I'm going to send out a notice to, so when Fuse ClickUp, how many people can work on a project on a free version of ClickUp. Known as Free Forever, allows you to invite an unlimited number of users to your workspace. However, such as the number of spaces you can create and certain feature usage limits. I think that's probably fine. I don't think I need anything else. I mean, I just need to know how many people. It says my trick is being able to allow multiple people. What kind of usage? Dashboards. You can create up to 100 dashboards. Doc tags. There's a limited number of tags. Once you hit the limit, you won't be able to add or edit doc tags. I don't even know what doc tags are. Docs tags. Automations. There are usage limits on automations, and once you reach the limit, you'll need to upgrade to continue using them. I'm going to place and encourage users to upgrade to a paid plan if they need more extensive. That should probably be fine. I don't see how that. I don't think I'm in any danger of that. I think it comes down to if you've got 50 people in your company and you're just doing bunches and bunches of stuff. I don't think. My shaker bottle without a shaker lid because it's in the dishwasher. I don't. Which reminds me, one of my Superman shaker bottles died. It started leaking too much, and I finally said it's time to go. So now I gotta get a new one. I'm gonna start shopping for Superman shaker bottles. Yeah. I'm down to two shaker bottles. Like the count, except sad instead of happy. Okay, so where was I? What would I like to get done in my play execution player interactions? At least one play. I think once I get one play and player interaction, the others will be a little easier because you start to get a concept. But the thing is, you got to start implementing it into the UI so that the UI can so you can start visualizing it, right? So you can start seeing it come to life, because yeah, things might work sort of okay in a simulation, because the simulation's not too worried about appearances, but eventually it's going to come down to appearances, and it's got to look good too. That'll be the goal for the month. These seem like not significant, but some of these are going to be pretty significant. That's going to be significant, which means the saving and loading and all these things getting interactive is going to be significant. Coaching component, getting this in play probably won't be overly complex, but it's still, you know, now that I have the situation already, game situations already, it's just going to be a matter of reading them and then doing something with them. But some of these are like the first logic things I've actually put into Go. So recreating that logic to read those scenarios and pull the right kind of play. Now we're going to have to create a handful of plays, which might mean that I also need to get the play creation done. So play creation is kind of important in order for me to create the plays that the coach component is going to reference from the game situation, even if they are just generic little simple plays. Pulling my shirt off. This sweatshirt's a little tight for me. It's not really that bad when it's on. It's just it's kind of stiff. It's soft, but it's not stretchy. So when it's on, I was outside in the rain and it's kind of damp. That's why I'm taking it off. And I was getting hot, so there's that. Okay, so back to it. Let's go ahead and go to I need to get the play creation going. I feel like there's certain steps that need to happen. I need to coach, I need to create a play selection. That play selection, then I can do the play execution. Because at that point, I got to start defining how the players are going to respond on the field. Now, players are just a list of stats, which I'm trying to decide what that's going to entail. But I think at first I might just create a across-the-board simple set of stats. And ultimately, like in the next month or two, also I'm going to have to start saving stats. Start what happens on a play. Once I start creating results out of player interactions, we'll be going on to saving those player interactions and the play results into the database, so that we start creating stats, and then we can start creating stats that can start being utilized for other purposes throughout the game. So yeah, got a lot to do, but we're building that tree of function. It's going to go here, and then spread out into the lower bits and bobs of what's happening in the game. I think eventually I'll probably even have to, maybe it might even be a good idea for me to add one more thing to my January plans function, and that is to create player data player microservice service to create / update skills, save update fetch stats, create and update skills, update and fetch stats. What else will we do? We'll do a lot of other things, but those are the things we're going to need to have available in the player microservice to start. And so we're going to have to get that information, be able to put information in. Now, how that's going to be passed in is mostly going to be behind the scenes. There won't be a lot of UI manipulation of that stuff, because that happens through the simulation. But the simulation will be, it needs to have that option to be able to do those things, right? So I think That's probably a lot to ask for. Play execution, player interactions. Now, I think this may have to be a microservice. Play execution, player interaction, microservice. And I'm not totally sure. The player interactions may have to be their own microservice. Because they're going to be doing some individual actions that I want my play execution service to be able to call and say, hey, run. It's kind of like because every player on the field is doing something, right? So we almost need a... Gosh, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting because it's like every player has to know the state of the field, or at least what's in their current locations. So what are we saving? What is the logic? So, okay, so the player moves forward 5 yards. Is there a player there? How do we know that? How do we know if a player, like let's say for example he's being covered by a DB. You got a wide receiver who's going out. Snap, run. Okay, so what does that wide receiver do? That wide receiver is like, is there a player in front of me? So he advances into a square. And he has to do a check. So do we call all of the players at once and say, okay, players, do your jobs at this tick, at this tick, at this tick, at this tick. You know, everybody does their job. Where are you? Where's your players? What are you looking at here? What's in front of you? How are you going to respond to that? And that's the defense and offense. So you basically got 22 actions that have to happen. Well, it's more like 15 because I have a scenario. My offensive lines, defensive lines they're grouped as an individual character to a point. I mean, they're adjustable, but there's a certain number of line players that just work as a whole. They're either succeeding or failing as a whole. So there's a number of actions that have to take place, and some things are sequential. But at that point, you got to decide what's going to happen when all the players, act on a tick. How long is a tick? Probably. I was discussing this with my buddies, which they were saying, my AI buddies, and their suggestion is that your ticks are about, what did I say, about 16 hundredths or 16 milliseconds, 16, 17 milliseconds each. So they're very quick ticks. Just like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Which is good, but I just feel like that's a lot of processing. And so I'm going to have to get past my own mental blocks. Okay, so I have a mental, not a block, but a mental perceptions of running lots of repeating code. Because that's essentially what a simulation is. That's live action. You've got these micro actions happening every 100th of a second. And it's the exact same thing. Some things I don't have nothing to do. They're just they're advancing. And how do I know? I guess my concern is, how do I know if I'm just doing a simulation? Let's say I don't have and are we yeah, see, that's going to be interesting. I'll have to be talking to my buddies a lot. Just try to get a perception of how these games manage interactions. And I know it does it pretty quick, but I'm just thinking, so what if you run the entire play? Do you run the entire play and then store every tick's results and then pass it to Unity that then renders every tick, which is the movement, creating a flow of what's going on. Maybe there's only events that Unity cares about, right? So moving here, they impact here, something happens here, that kind of thing. So maybe that's what you're trying to mimic in Unity, and then Unity smooths it out, does all these other things. So every time there's an action or a thing that has to happen, Unity mimics it and then creates a smoothness that interacts everything else. And then, at certain points on the field, these things happen. That's kind of how I'm starting to visualize it. Certain things are happening at these points. And Unity is just kind of like, it's kind of like the you're creating dots, a dotted drawing, like connect the dots. Or you're creating the connect the dots. And you can kind of see what it is, but it's just a bunch of dots, and until Unity comes in and starts drawing out those smooth lines that connect all the dots and make the picture. And that's what Unity's going to be doing. It's going to go, oh, there's something here, there's something here, there's something here. Now, it may actually go, okay, well, some of these dots are, they're not doing nothing. It could just go to the next dot. It'll just do its thing. And I don't know. I'm not sure I need a physics engine because it did mention using a physics engine to make things look natural. But again, I'm not doing Madden level rendering. Mostly I'm going to have, lower level cartoony stuff that just kind of, guys go down, and it's simple actions. Because that's all I care about. I want it to play realistically, not look realistic. It's not that I don't want it to look good, but I don't think I need Madden level realism, because I'm not going for that. That's not. It'd be kind of interesting to do, but that's way beyond the scope of this project because I don't have that skill. Maybe at some point in the future, if the game takes off and it's doing pretty good, I could either learn that stuff or get some talented motion capture skilled programmers in to start helping me render those kind of things out, because then you're just plastering, implementing a more candy coated covering on my delicious cookie, which is ultimately the goal, right? Yeah, we'll just keep adding other features in there as well. All right, so let's go over to my my Go application. So this is what I created, and this is how I want the playbook to basically be structured. You got a playbook made up of plays, which have a type. They have formations, of course, and then they have routes. Routes are not just pass routes or receiving routes, but they're routes. They're what the player is going to do. That's the direction they're going to run. There's the actions they're going to take and the multiple steps along the way. So a route is made up of points of action and where those are going to take place. So the first several points are changes of direction, essentially. What is the player going to do to at what point is the player going to do something other than what they're doing now? It's like run to point A, run to point B, run to point C, and then, make sure you're open for the receiver. And one of the things, a good receiver should do is look for the ball, right? I mean, at all times. But they don't. You can't. So, like maybe in the first segment, they never look for the ball in the first segment. Or maybe halfway through the first segment, or whatever. You have certain players that are smart enough to do things differently. So better receivers will be more available to catching the ball than worse ones, because worse ones don't remember to do stuff that they're supposed to do, like look back for the ball all the time. They're all professionals, but some of them are just more likely to forget than like the best ones. The best ones know, hey, quarterback could be in trouble on this 20-yard run of mine. I should probably be looking back at 10, just in case. But there is the one thing. players slow down when they're not looking in front of them. They do. You can't run your fastest looking backwards. You can run pretty fast, but you're going to lose a step because you're focusing on something else. Your wind resistance ain't right. That's the reason. Okay, so okay, based on your requirements, let's suggest for optimization of the MongoDB structure. So I did ask. My concern was I'm not real familiar with NoSQL and how it's structured. I mean, I know it's just containers and objects don't need to have that same relational state. It does look like it didn't really change anything. It goes, all right, it's got playbook, play, formation, and route. It did take out my play types, though. It did take out my play types. Now they do have a get routes by play type. And get play types. Context, play type. All right, but they don't actually have a play type, so it must just be reading them out. Routes by play type. Would I load routes by play type? No, I'd be getting routes. Would I get routes by play type? I guess I'd get routes by play type. Really, what the play type does for a route is tell the defender what he's doing. So in this particular route, he's either going to be going out for a pass, he's going to be blocking, he's going to be zone covering, he's going to be doing something during that route. That's the action of the route. In fact, I wonder, starting grid action. Oh, okay, so it's the route. Okay, so I use the route ID, and then the route ID goes with what you're doing at the end of that point, which is your action. So I could just change path to a bunch of coordinates. You run this path, and then at the end of the path is your action. And see, plus, looking back for the ball as once a receiver, you don't want to look back too soon, because that also tells the receiver that you can get the ball at any time. If you're going on because anytime you stop or look or try to start looking for the pass, that's the defender also being notified that the pass could be coming at any moment. And you're going to be slower. So you might do something like, a quick juke. Maybe at a certain point you do an action. This is kind of why I wanted to be able to do actions at each point. I originally just said, I started doing it that way, where I'd say, you're doing a path, and at each point you can do an action. Maybe there is no action. Maybe I do make it a two-dimensional array, but you always have the option of an action at the end of your coordinates. So it's going to be a bunch of coordinates with an action. Do you do a juke? Do you do a turn and go? There's different things that you might do. A turn and go would be like you turn around and you do this, and then you turn around and go up the field. Or you might just do but there's a juke would be kind of coming in, running like you're going to go this way, and then stop and going out. So there are different kinds of routes you would have to implement. So I'm thinking I'm going to change how my path is. It might even be more like an action. Yeah, so I want to get this right. And I want to make sure that I'm giving myself all the options I need in order to read what's happening on the play. Because then when I come in, I want to be able to just say select a route where this guy does this or this guy does that. And certain actions and things you might not be able to do. But I could maybe have it set certain things, you know. What are you going to do at different points? Path. All right, I'm changing this to path action array. And this is going to be two-dimensional. And then we're going to have a relative move coordinate. What would be it be if the receiver? I'm trying to think of a good word that's simple, comes to the point, because there's certain actions a receiver can do, right? Two-dimensional relative move coordinate. And action. So I thought it'd be just like move, 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 action. But you're not going to have just one action on a play. You could do other things on a play. You want your players to have a option. So I'm thinking it's going to be different. It's going to be like turn, and then here it might be something like I think I'm really struggling with, I think I'm going to have action type IDs. Just because we got route, we're going to have route ID, grid location, and the position. So, but there's a path and a path action. See, no action means just look ahead. But I think something else. Yeah, let's go with, I think I'm going to have actions. I want to have a designation of what these actions can be, because I want to be able to put a description in there. We're going to go type route action struct, because I need a description. I need some way to store a description. So we're going to have an ID, and then we're going to have a name, yeah, and then we're going to have a description. What exactly is that? Because if we're building a play, we want to be able to say, hey, let's put in a route action here. And we're going to have a set of optional actions that you can do. Yeah, I like that. And then the path action will be a two-dimensional array with move coordinate, relative move coordinate, and then we're going to go route action ID. And that will be, yeah, I think that's better. Which means this is going to be more like, ugh, boo. There we go. I've changed my mind. I'm changing my mind back to what it was before because I just feel like this is going to give me more flexibility. Oops. This will allow me to do more things, have a little bit more options for what we're going to do here. And this way I can do things like we're going to have zone. Oh yeah, we want to have a play type ID designation as well. Play type ID. I kind of was thinking the play type would determine some of the actions that they're doing, and it might in some cases. Like an offensive lineman might do pass blocking or run blocking just automatically because that's what they're set for. But they may have to, if it's a guard dive or a tackle dive, they may block differently, right? So they're going to have to be able to do things like push them out to the left or right, or just make a hole in a way that makes it so that the running back has a better chance of getting through. So if they succeed in their blocks, the running back can have a better chance at making some yards because there's not going to be anybody to stop them immediately. But I do think I want route action ID. And that'll give me options to make it more flexible for the build process. It's more descriptive anyway. So my position will have a route assigned to it. And get formation, get routes by play type, get play types. I think I like this. This is going to be allow for more customization on a play. Now again, I may be the only one using it for a while. I don't know if I'm ready to. I don't know if it's going to be a full feature of the game. I would like it to be, but I gotta see how well I can get the engine to interpret plays, because I may have, if I can dynamically make the engine smart enough to deal with everything here, then it doesn't matter what the play design is. It just, you set up the play and the players do it because that's what they are doing. Now, it won't be as functional as, like, say, like if I create different kinds of, if it's a play type like a run, you could do, but certain kinds of routes might not. I mean, like, there's certain actions that should be an arc, right? You just like to run, because like a running back would not necessarily run in a straight line. A receiver always runs in straight lines because they're trying to lose somebody, so they go But a running back, if he's running out, hey Log, how you doing, man? Happy New Year to you too, man. A running back's going to run straight around to the outside of the play, right? So they're not going to run in a straight line. They're going to run in an arc, getting to the side to the line of scrimmage. You're not going to see them. They might take a step forward and then turn towards the sideline, to kind of throw off the defense. But ultimately, if they're going out for a pass, they're just going to arc out and they're going to be looking for that screen pass. So maybe the route action might be the name be screen or something like that. It would be a different kind of route, usually assigned to a running back, or it could be a wide receiver or anybody else, but screen, man. We have things like bump, scout. I gotta admit, man, UI is pretty cool. It just seems to remember what I've been talking about all the time when I've typed in certain various pieces of code, and then it goes, oh, you must want this and this and this, and then sometimes it even comes up with its own, and I'm like, oh, well, good job, man. Turn. See, look at that. See, it's adding all these other things. Turn. Oh, what did it say? Curl. I didn't even tell it to do curl. What the heck? Look at that. How did it do that? There it is. Look, curl, slant, post, go. It added all those in, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even add those. It made them up. It made them up himself. Hitch, wheel, drag, corner. These are all actual names. That's awesome, dude. God, man, AI is almost kind of eerie. It's like it knows what I'm talking about, man. It's like next time I'm gonna say, okay, what is my name? And it's gonna type out my name. It's like, okay, how did you know that? Are you listening to me? Because it's funny because they do say like, Alexa's always listening, and they're writing it down, and they're recording all the stuff you're saying, and that's why all your stuff is, it knows what you're talking about, and it gives you ads. And I'm like, it's not necessarily bad, right? I mean, yeah, some people are terrified of it because they think it's going to be the end of the world because this AI is just going to, ooh, I know everything about you. I'm going to destroy the world. But my thought is, first of all, I've worked with AI enough to know it's not that smart. Certainly not yet. We're a long way from that smart. But, I mean, wouldn't it be nice to just code with words? Just say, do this. And then you can look at it and go, well, that's not right. Change this to this and that to that. And it would change them. And just do it. And it'd be so much faster because the computer could type way faster. I mean, just think about how fast you could write code if you could just talk to your screen and tell it to type what you wanted it to type. You have a lot less typos, I'll tell you that much. I mean, it knows certain things. Like it would know indentations, and it wouldn't forget parentheses, and you'd have a lot less, missing line termination characters, and it would just get those little things. The case sensitivities you wouldn't need to worry about because it wouldn't forget that you're using all capital first letters or when to use lowercase. It would just do it. You just write it out, tell it what you want, and it would just do it. Now, it wouldn't write the whole code because it's not that smart, but it could write the lines and the sections that you want it to write, and you would just go a lot faster because you wouldn't have to make mistakes. And it's like this same thing here. It's like I didn't even mention most of these things, like wheel, comeback, dig, seam, cross. These are all just a bunch of names that it came up with, which are actual names. I wouldn't have remembered all those. So that's impressive. Now it doesn't actually. These are all offensive. These are all offensive plays, like zone, man, bump. But these are defensive. But these ones, I said, scout. I created this thing, so that's not real. But that's not necessarily true. Okay, so I use this is the name. So scouting is like having a player on the opposite side. You're either shadowing them or you're scouting them. You're watching them. You're specifically job, no matter what they do, run, pass, whatever, you're scouting that player. You're going to keep an eye on them. It's also shadowing, but I'm not too worried about that. But what this is basically saying is you want, for me, the scout action, which I'll probably do shadow for the others, because I want the scout action to mean you are a receiver or a player who's hit the end of their route and the play is kind of broken down. The quarterback's just scrambling. You go into scout mode, and that player goes into scout mode, and their job is just to find a spot that's open. Try to get away from the defender so that the quarterback has someone to throw to. So that's scouting. You're scouting for an open space. So what'd you do for New Year's, A-Log? I hope you played it safe and had fun doing whatever it was. I mean, obviously you made it. You made it through, which is good. Where is my? Oh, there it is. Nope, that's not it. That's it. Oh. So plug in my watch, get it all charged up. I used it for my... It doesn't last quite as long as it used to. The battery used to go over a week. Now it's about every 4 days. I've had it for that watch. I've had for well over 2 years. It's a good watch, but I'll be looking for a new one. Yeah, New Year's stream, huh? I actually did board gaming. Me and I have a board game group that we go to. We do board gaming at our church, and they give us the game room, or not the game room, but their activities room, and we go about twice a month. But on special occasions like holidays, we'll usually do an all-day gaming event. Not like Christmas, but like the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Labor Day, New Year's, and 4th of July. Those weekends associated to those holidays, or those days associated to them, we'll do an all-day gaming event. And on New Year's is the one event that we do that goes all the way till midnight. So we start like at noon, and we just play board games all the way until midnight. We have some people who don't make it, don't stay the whole night, but we have a number of people who will go the whole time. And so that's what we did. And then after New Year's, if you're in the middle of a game, you finish it up. If not, you pack it up and you head home. But it was fun. We've been doing that for years, so it's pretty fun. Four is good. That's what I ran. My D&D group was 4 people. It was 5 to start, but one of them dropped out, and so we only did 4 people. But it was good. I think 4 is a good number. It works out well. It's a little less hectic, and surprisingly enough, I was running I wasn't creating my own campaign. It's too much work. But I did take 2 campaigns and blend them together, basically overlapping them, having their events happening kind of simultaneously, so giving the players some opportunity to go back and forth between the campaigns. And I was videoing it for a while, but this was early on in my stream, and it was a lot of work to set up, and nobody was watching the stream, and it was just a lot of work. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, because it's already a lot of work to run a campaign like that. And but I did notice the 4 people, even though these campaigns were for up to 6, they had no trouble with any of the encounters for the most part. There were some close calls, few near deaths, but they always had like NPCs that were with them. There was always some NPC that would either be part of their party or whatever. So somebody who was always making their, I think, made it a little easier. They had assistants. They weren't always just 4 people. So it worked out pretty good. I mean, even at the end, there was people on helping them out. So that just were part of the game. I didn't even necessarily add them. There was one that they got that wasn't really planned. The game didn't plan for it, but he was with them for about a third of the campaign. Then he got killed, and they didn't seem to be too worried about it. This character that was with them for the whole for so long. He died, and they're like, oh, they just moved on. They weren't all that. It's like, whoa, that's some cold people, man. It's like, they did keep his body, which strangely enough, they never dealt with. they kept his body in a bag of holding because it's supposed to kind of like, if you're dead already, it maintains the body. I mean, the body doesn't like rot. So I thought maybe at some point they'd ask for help, they'd resurrect him, they would do something because he's sitting in this bag of holding. They just totally forgot about him. By the end of the campaign, they never even mentioned him. It's just like, okay. It's like somebody's in that world, somebody's in for a surprise. They're going to open up their bag of holding and they're going to go, what's this? It's a body. It's a Herringon. But yeah, it was fun. We just ended. In fact, we just finished it in. It was over a 2-year campaign, and we did pretty good. We actually played. Well, it was scheduled to play every week, but stuff happens. But for the most part, we played every week. I think overall we had, I want to say, 80 some sessions. Over, I think it was almost 3 years of play. Almost exactly 3 years we ended. Like 2 weeks before 3 years was up. And we pretty much finished. There was a little bit more story, but I couldn't justify. They seemed ready to be done. And the extra story bits just didn't have enough in them to justify. It was the anticlimactic ending. They had already fought all the biggest bads in the game. The last part was mostly just, there might have been one more fight, but it wouldn't have been necessarily as epic as the one they had just completed. So it would have been kind of a less letdown. And I just couldn't justify the story continuing. And they sort of set up for the last part to be dealt with. They kind of sort of did. I don't know if it's a legitimate way that they did it. But I let it go because it's like, yeah, I can't come up with a reason for you guys to keep going other than if you don't want to. I mean, it's like, your guys are good. They're all right with, they knew the last part, what they weren't dealing with, and it just didn't seem important to them. So I wasn't going to force them. I've been in a number of D&D groups. In fact, that D&D group, even though I'm usually in them as a player, that was the first of all the D&D campaigns I've ever done. That was the first one that ever finished. They always fall apart. I've been hoping. My son started one up with started one up with me and my wife and some friends of his and ours, and we were doing that one once a month. I'll tell you, when you set up a campaign, I think your best chance of success is finding people who are willing to commit to a weekly schedule. And it doesn't have to be a hard commit. It's just that they plan for every Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is you're doing, to play. And then life happens, events happen, things stop you from playing on some weeks. But think about it, even if you miss 2 or 3 sessions, you're like a month out, right? 1 month. If you do a monthly session and you miss one, you're 2 months out. People are already forgetting what happened last time. And if something happens where you can't play on that same second Saturday of the month for like 2 or 3 months, now your campaign is kind of dying. People are just like, oh yeah, we have that thing we were doing 4 months ago. It's like there's no, you could really lose momentum really fast. So I think it's better to have a commitment saying, hey, everybody's willing to do this on Thursday nights. But you just give the flexibility to say, but hey, if stuff happens. We will pause for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. During the Christmas holiday, maybe you don't play during the last half of December and you pick it up in January again. But you have a consistent weekly thing. And I just feel like that really worked out well. Yeah, and then you got to decide, because like we never played without all 4 people. when one person couldn't make it, I think one time, that's not true. One time we played without somebody, and that was only because it was a last minute cancellation, and the other 3 people were there, so we went ahead and played, and we just did it. But generally, if one person couldn't make it, we just said we'll take the break off. There's no reason to keep going. We didn't have to go without people until that when one person dropped out. He just wasn't around for a long time, and we didn't want to keep canceling, so we just kind of went on without him. And then he just he never came back. So that was just, the way it goes. But yeah, I think the shorter your time frames of commitment, the more likely you can keep going, and you're not going to be lost right away. You only have to remember a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's not that long. But when you have to remember 2 months or 3 months, you start losing that momentum. The DM is kind of like starting to look for other things to do. I think it's better to do a regular. I think that's why like Critical Role does so well, because they play every week. It's a part of their schedule. It's really hard to have a monthly schedule. Monthly actions just don't have any flexibility. And if something happens, the whole thing starts to fall apart. Plus with Critical Role, those guys, they play without people. They have a lot of people, but if 1 or 2 people can't show up, they play without 1 or 2 people. They just get fill-ins who come in and take part for a little while. Plus, if you know people who are willing to commit for a weekly game, they're going to be a lot more committed. If somebody says, I could play once a month, their commitment level's really low, and they're going to miss a lot. Because when people have so tight a schedule that they can't commit on a frequent basis, that means that one day they can commit is also in jeopardy. That's part of the problem, I think, with our monthly one. We have at least one person in the group that's just like always busy. And he wanted to do a monthly campaign, but stuff comes up for him all the time, so we miss it. We end up canceling a lot because he can't play or whatever. And there's only 5 of us in the campaign, and typically though, and 2 of them are couples, like my wife and I and this other guy and his wife. If one of them can't make it, then the whole couple usually doesn't show up, right? So it's like you lose 2 when you lose 1. And so, and then my son, I think he's not motivated enough to be a DM. I just think he's like, he's like excited to do it, but then, with all these big breaks and I think again, it's a fit schedule thing. When you have randomly moving schedules, you don't always feel committed. But if you know that Thursday nights is game night, we're doing this every Thursday, this is what we're doing, it's just on everybody's mind. It's their schedule, it's their thing. And the DM even knows. He's like, okay, I got to get ready for Thursday or whatever. And then if something happens, you're like, okay, well, I'm ready. Next week we'll be good to go. So it's just always on your mind. It's just better. And it worked out for us. We were able to finish. It was nice to be able to get all the way through a campaign. And I'm hoping to set up another thing. We're not going to do, I might even try streaming it again on my other channel, obviously. I won't be doing it on this one. But we're going to try and play a couple of other campaign style games. They're not role-playing games. Like we might, one of them is Gloomhaven, possibly Frosthaven, if that's what people rather. I'm playing a Frosthaven game, so that means I have to figure out how to work them in, because it's not really a game where you can just have a repeat version. You could, but I didn't buy the bits for that, and I'm not so far along that I couldn't work other people in. And the other one is Role Player Adventures, and that's another. It's like it's a campaign game too, but it's a lot shorter. I think it's only got like 15 units. So I'm trying to set that up with some people, maybe even a couple of people that played before, because I know that they might have a weekly option. So yeah, that'll be fun. We'll be doing that soon. Hopefully, I can get some people on board with that idea. Maybe we'll just see where it goes, try it out. But yeah, good luck, man. I think campaigns that are awesome. I love to be in games, but man, I've been struggling to find one. I don't know how many campaigns I've been in, and every one of them have died after a few months. You know, it's something. It's like my son was running another one with me, and we did it for a while. It went on for, I want to say, 6-8 months pretty consistently. One guy had ended up moving away, and instead of just continuing on without him, my son said, "Oh, we'll just start a new one." And I'm like, "But we already have characters." It's like all the people that were still there for the campaign, they're all in his other group. On our other group, it's like me, his wife, and a friend of ours. All three of us were the other people in that group. And so we have four people in that group. One of them left. We had one, two, three. I want to say maybe five people in the group, and I love that. I think creating. I don't know about creating characters. I guess I didn't create too many characters. I did create a few. One of the things I did every year for the 3 years that we did it is I did a holiday thing. And I bought like little gifts for all of the people in my campaign. Like the first year I gave everybody dice. The second year I gave them all dice jails that I bought on Etsy, and I painted and gave them to them so that they could, these little dice jails are kind of cool. And then they just open them up and throw dice in them that were misbehaving. And but then I have a campaign that was associated to giving those away. And I bought a third year one, but the campaign ended before the holiday came. So I have these little things I was going to give them, but they didn't, they felt done. So we never got to my holiday. I was going to do a holiday one shot, but I totally forgot about it. And so I don't know. Maybe I'll do one next year. I don't know, but I missed it this year. So we'll see. I haven't painted the minis, but basically I bought some little minis. They're these little dragon dice holders, where these guys hold a dice up at, above their head or whatever. They're little dragony guys. I bought several of them. They were kind of cool. And but yeah, so I did like a little, and then I created. For those games, I generally bought a special mini. Like the first year it was a special. It was part of the campaign, but it was a custom adventure, a custom piece that I created for the campaign. An encounter, custom encounter, and I had a Reaper's little leprechaun riding a turkey, and I played him as one of the characters in this encounter. And so, and I set it up it was the turkey that was the main, well, it wasn't the main bad guy, but it was the evil character controlling the leprechaun. So he was shapeshifted into this turkey, and he was controlling the leprechaun. And I don't think he was a leprechaun. He was just like a dwarf or a halfling or something, but he looks like a leprechaun on the turkey. And then so they had this little encounter, and then one year, actually I guess we did do 3, because the first year I did one, because we started in October. So that very first year I did one where I bought a little rat that was holding a bunch of stuff on his back, and he was a pack rat. And so that was a special encounter at the beginning of the whole thing as well. And when they killed it, or when they finally killed it, defeated it, it ran away. But when they did finally defeat it to make it run away, it dropped a bunch of things on the ground, and that's the one that gave them all the dice. And the next year, I had the leprechaun, and I did that one. And at the end of that one, oh yeah, there was all these a bunch of people were captured, and they were all in these jails, and they tried to free all of those characters, and the jails were the dice jails that I gave them. And I hadn't come up with a campaign for the third one yet. But so yeah, that's kind of what, those are the little extra things I did. So that was fun. I did that once a year. It was always fun trying to come up with those things. And I was kind of looking forward to the last one, and then I just totally spaced it once they ended the campaign early. It would have been close though, because I don't think, even if they'd have gone on and finished, it would have probably only been 3 weeks to a month more. So I would have had to plan that other campaign pretty quick to get that in there. But I would have probably been more inclined to remember it had we continued. Yeah, you know, it's kind of fun. It's fun being able to give them stuff. And they were cheap. I always, you know, it wasn't like I spent a ton of money on the gifts. I mean, the dice towers, I think, were $25 total for all, like $5 a piece or something. And then the dice, I bought them on Amazon, was this pack of like five sets of dice. It was like $20, and it came with little dragon bags and this set of like five multicolored dice inside. So they were cool. They were cool little sets of dice, but it was cheap. You know, it wasn't terribly expensive. So they were fun little things to give away. And these little dragons I got were like $4 or $5 a piece. So again, not very expensive. I only had to buy 4 of them. Plus, I always bought. They all came with like. I always bought an extra thing for me. Like I have my own I have my own dice jail. I got one of the dragon packs, dragon dice things. I got one of the little mini dragons. Well, I got all the mini dragons right now because I have nothing to give away. Yeah, you know, I am still shopping. One of these days, if I ever start making some real money again, like I did back in the day, which was last April, or get this app running and start making some little bit of money. I want to get a 3D printer. I'm thinking I want to get a resin printer, but we'll see. Alexa, turn desk lamp to soft white. Need a little bit more light in here. It's getting dark. But yeah, so it's cool. It's kind of fun to create those little custom campaigns and have it drop gifts at the end. Interestingly enough, the one where I gave everybody the dice jails, that was the one where somebody wasn't there. she at the last minute, my son's wife couldn't make it, and everybody else was there, so we played. And then during COVID, I think we played like 2 or 3 weeks where everybody was remote. That was kind of interesting. We played on it through Discord, and I was streaming that one, which was a little bit easier to stream in a sense because it was already on my computer and I just had to stream it. And I had all my stuff on my desk here. that was kind of interesting. It definitely. Oh no, I didn't have it all on my desk because I still use the table because I wanted to put the minis on there and show the minis where they were all sitting on the thing. So I just moved them around on the map. So I had stuff. I had my desk here, but everybody was on the screen. So I had to set up where all the minis were so I could access them for the game. So I had the minis here, and I was doing my thing here. And then when the battle took place, I'd turn around and move minis around on the board behind me. It was kind of funny. All right, so yeah, where was I? Let's go ahead and start getting some more bits in here. So it started mentioning my store, and I think I need to get my store in here. So I got the types, and then keep reference data separate, formations, routes, actions. Allows for efficient querying of play building components, maintains relationships while leveraging MongoDB's document model, supports the UI requirements for play building. Let's do this one. This is going to go in my store file. I'm going to go to my store. So Playbook by user ID. I will need to get playbook. Get the playbook by the user ID so we know what playbook we're referencing. But I'm trying to think, how would it's a lot of what I'm pulling is going to be ironed out in how it's going to display on the UI, right? Yeah, I got a fair number of minis from Etsy, and I would love to just buy the what do you call it, the STLs, because they're a lot cheaper. You can get them for a few bucks, and you don't have any shipping or anything like that. So you just get STLs for stuff you want, and then you can print. And usually you can get like a whole bunch of STLs. You know, you pay $15 and you get 7, 8, 9, 10 STLs, and you can just print all your minis because it's a lot cheaper that way. And that would be nice. Plus, if you want more, you print more. You know, you could, if you're like, you know, I didn't get quite enough of those wizard goblins, I need 3 more wizard goblins or something like that. You can print entire armies of stuff, and it don't cost you any more. Well, it costs you the cost of resin or whatever you're using for 3D printing, but it's still kind of just a lot cheaper. Resin printers are better for minis, I think, but I hear they're getting, and they've got some better resins now that are more flexible, so they don't break as easy. Because some of these minis I've gotten, they're just so breakable. There's no pliability to them all, and at all, and it bothers me because I hate breaking minis. Gluing them together, especially the little pieces, it's not fun. Oh yeah, there's tons of them out there. And free ones, that's even better. But yeah, I would probably be printing them all. I'd probably have so many more minis if I had a 3D printer, because I just like I'd have to come up with a better. I have to get some of my X cases hung up. I haven't hung up enough of them, so I don't have enough wall space being utilized to hold my minis, because the X cases work great for storing them as well as moving them around to a campaign to transport them, because like when I go places, like when my son wants to use my minis for his campaign, I bring a bunch of minis with me, because I can just create the cases and carry them over there. But in the meantime, I would like to hang a bunch of my minis on the wall so I don't take up all my desk space or the floor space of minis, because they hold quite a few. I just need to hang more of them so that when I do get minis, or I have minis that want to be put up, I can start putting them up on the wall, making them more available to, you know, access and view and that kind of thing. So yeah, I need to do that. I've been meaning to hang some for quite some while. The mage cages hang up really good too. But I don't have that many white ones. I want to get, well, no, that's not true. I have quite a few white mage cages, but the white mage cages I think are the best mage cages for displays. So I have to use white or clear, and I don't have any more clear. Clear X cases are gone, so I have to use the white ones. And then, well, one of these days when I get my next Kickstarter launched and I've got enough people who are ready to back that, I'll be able to make the bigger units and get more units and be able to get those out there for people too, as well as me, because I like to use them too. But that's down the road. Every year I hope that I'll be able to push up to that point where I get enough interested people that I can launch the Kickstarter for that. But that's going to be a big Kickstarter, a huge Kickstarter, and I can't do a small version of that because it's production costs. You know, there's no cheap way to do that. Like I'm doing, like with my Indiegogo here for this game, yes, in order to stay on this full time, I'm going to need to find money somewhere. So that's what the Indiegogo's for. But there's nothing stopping me from continue to make progress on it until I do get work, even without the success of the Indiegogo campaign, right? So there's nothing stopping me. I can take as little as people are willing to provide and just let that buy me a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But with manufacturing, you can't do that. They want to be paid, and you can't just say, well, maybe after I sell some. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You're going to say, pay us now, then we'll make your stuff, and then you just hope you sell it. So yeah, that's not it. So it's an expensive campaign, and I have to have the backers ready to go, and I have no resources to do the marketing. I actually, there's a couple of companies that do professional Kickstarter campaigns, and they've launched a number of very successful ones, proven track records, but they're kind of expensive. They cost it costs a lot to market and get these things up. But they also, the one that I want to do, they don't take all campaigns. They only take ones they believe they can make work, and they've already approved my campaign. They ask me every few months, "Are you ready to do this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't have the money to pay you, man. I wish I could. I really would." Because they could do 3 to 6 month, pre-marketing. Oh, you mean to do the Kickstarter? Well, in order to make the bigger units, see, that's what first of all, when you do Kickstarter, you can't just keep doing for the same thing. There has to be something new. It either has to be improved, or a new version, which is usually an improved version. Or, you can't just say, hey, we're going to make some more Kickstarter, some more X cases. You want to come and help me do that? You can't do that. Kickstarter everything has to be something kind of new. So I've already done the new version of Clear Ones, which my problem there was I didn't make enough. That's just simply put. I made enough to cover my costs, but I didn't make enough to make more when I sold out. And I sold out in like 3 months, and I was like, I don't have enough money to make more. It's just like, oops. So this time I'm obviously planning to make enough that I can kind of get a circular, or what do you call it, an evergreen product going, where I make some, sell some, make some, sell some. Each time I buy more, it's enough to cover making more if I sell them out. And the bigger unit, though, the reason it's so expensive is because the bigger unit's going to be a brand new mold for this thing. And it's going to cost roughly double what my original one cost, which was pretty expensive. And so I got to get that made plus units. So ultimately, I think this time around, last time I only made like 1,500 to 2,000 units of X cases. This time I'll probably make like 2,500 X cases plus another 1,000 to 1,500 of the big units, which also means a whole lot of, it means a whole lot of space being taken up in storage. I got to figure out how I'm going to do that. But interesting though, when I first did this campaign, my very first Mage Cage run, I ordered almost 9,000 units. I've currently got like 100 of those left. 100, 200 left Mage Cages. It might be closer to 200, I think. But yeah, that was 9,000. I literally had to put some in storage. I rented a storage unit for a few months until I could get it down to the point where it fit in my garage. And so I traveled around to conventions, and slowly I got it down to the point where it fit in my garage. So I didn't have to have a storage unit for too long, but I did over time. I think it took like 7-8 months, I guess, before I was able to get it down to where it fit in my garage. My garage was a 2-car garage. It was pretty full, and slowly that went down, and now it's down to I have a small outdoor storage unit outside that's, I don't know, 8 by 10 or something, and it's not full, but it's got some blue ones, some white ones, some black ones. It's got what's left of the Mage Cages. Of the second, actually a lot of those aren't even from the first run, because when I first did 9,000 units, it was just black and gray. It's all I made. Black and gray, well, not true, black and gray, and I made a few select colors, just like a couple hundred of a few miscellaneous colors, and those went really fast. Well, relatively speaking, the black ones were the most popular. The gray ones did pretty well. The second production run, when those ones are all pretty much gone, second production run I added white and blue, and I basically just made white, blue, and black. I didn't make gray a second time because I had a lot of gray left from the first run. Now, the grays really aren't that bad. They're just kind of a very neutral color. So the blacks and the blues and the whites do pretty well. The blacks people like because they just look nice. They're shiny black. They look kind of cool. But I don't like them because they're very dark. You can't really see the units very well inside in there. It's in a well-lit room. I like the white ones because they display a lot nicer. They look good. You can see what's in there, and they look good on the wall. If they're other than clear units, they're probably the second best looking for display. Then a few years ago, I found the perfect LED lights for these cases. So I started offering these. I put a bunch of them together with LED lights on my thing, and I took them to a convention. And I'd be walking around with basically a lantern filled with all these LED lights. I bought this battery that fit inside of one of the cases, and it just kept them on. I could just run it all day long. I could walk around with this big old lit up display of all my cases, and people are like, "Ooh, wow, those are really cool, man." It was really nice. I set it up on my display counter, and people really, that's what I loved about these cases. I did not have to do anything to market them other than just carry them around. I had people coming up to me all the time asking me, "Dude, where do you get those? Oh, those are cool." I'm like, "Well, I sell them over in my booth, blah, blah, blah." And so, yeah, that's how I basically sold them and marketed them. I'd run a little video that showed how they assembled and how you could create your own cases and build them up the way you wanted to. And I didn't do that. I just sat there, and then people would go, they'd be walking by, and they'd be like, "Ooh." They'd walk back over to me, and they'd go, "Hey, man, tell me about these cases." And I'm like, "Well, here you go, blah, 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 blah." So, because I'm not great at marketing. I've probably mentioned that before. Other than just trying to, I don't mind talking about something, but I don't market well. I'm not good at, I don't know, "Hey buddy, come check these out." It's not me. I'm more the guy who sits over there, just kind of hope you'll notice them when you go by. And luckily these cases did a lot of that. They were very good at getting people's attention without me doing anything. Now I'm snapping them together, doing the demo where I'm just connecting them and removing them, taking them apart. And they're clicking, so people can hear me clicking, and they would turn and look, and they'd be like, "Oh," and they'd come over, and I'd sell units to them. So I typically did pretty good at conventions. I got them into like 80 to 100 stores across the country, and they did pretty well. Unfortunately, after I sold out, things kind of got quiet, because people would be asking me about them. "When are you going to have these? When are you going to have these?" I'm like, "I don't know." And I did a couple production runs on my own dime, and then I started doing and then I did the Kickstarter, which did pretty well, but not enough to make more because I didn't plan ahead for that. And next time I'll plan ahead. So, anyway, another digression. Jumped off the track. All because we were talking about minis. Your fault. You got me going on the minis. So I started talking about the cases, and I only talked about the cases because I was talking about space in relation to all my minis, because I get a lot of minis, and so yeah. But you got me going, man. That's how I do it. I start talking about my cases because I think they're awesome. I almost, more often than not, I don't even talk about them in the sense that I'm trying to sell people on them. I talk about them in the sense that I'm using them. I just like, "Oh yeah, well, I got to put some more of my cases up. I got to use them," because that's what I'm doing with them. That's how I use them. And that's how other people use them, I'd imagine. One of the things I'm doing with the new ones, though, they will be better because I'm changing them. They're going to go from ABS to polycarbonate. Apparently, clear polycarbonate used to be really hard to do. I guess because it's so hard, it's a harder material to work with. But apparently they got it figured out because A year or so after I did my clear units of ABS, they said that it was possible now. I found out later on, but it was still going to up the price of the units because polycarbonate is more expensive, but it makes them even more durable. So, and it's not that the cases themselves ever break, but sometimes the hinges could get worn out with lots and lots and lots of use. Strangely enough, I rarely heard people ever tell me or complain about the 15 to 20,000 units I sold. Nobody ever really complained and said that these units break all the time. But when I go to conventions, I snap them together and break and disassemble them hundreds of times over a weekend. The same 4, 5, or 6 units. I'm just doing it all day long. And the tabs would start to wear out, and I'd start to see that little white mark, and then eventually they might break off. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want my cases doing that. So I started asking about polycarbonate and what could we do to, increase that durability. And they go, well, you could make them, with this. And so it'll raise the price, but it'll make them even more resilient, which that's what I want to see. So that's all part of the next Kickstarter. For that, I have a game I developed that's really cool. My wife keeps saying, when are you going to get this game out? And I'm like, well, it's done. It just needs art. And I can't afford art. So I can't get it out. It's like a party game where everybody assembles puzzles. So that's another Kickstarter down the line. And it's not just about affording it. Because here's the problem. You cannot have a game's functional bits finished for a Kickstarter as long as you have the graphic part ready. You show the good looking. People look at it. Ooh, look at the art. Look at the concept. It's good. It's great. I want this, and they'll buy it if you market it well. What you can't do is have a game that looks like it's still in the prototype phase, even if it's finished. If it just looks like you got crappy art, crappy looking bits, people go, yeah, it doesn't look very good. I don't want it. They won't even give it a chance. It's all about the visuals with things like Kickstarter. It's got to look the part. And it's really hard to get things launched or successful on Kickstarter if you don't have the visuals. And unfortunately, that's not even the most important thing about a game, right? I mean, some people will buy, they'll invest in a miniatures campaign because the miniatures look awesome. They may find out later that the game sucks, but they didn't care because they liked the visuals. The minis were awesome, and they were happy with it because they got the minis. A lot of people will buy those with minis, simply say, well, if the game sucks, at least I got all these cool minis. So, and one of the things you can do with minis too is at least you have all the renderings of all of those minis. You got artists or sculptors or whatever that managed to create the renderings of the samples of what these minis will look like. Minis may not exist. They may not even be fully STL ready for print, but they can give you the concepts and you can go, wow, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. And then they go and set them up, and it could take them 6 months to a year to get all those minis rendered and ready to go. And but they got their money because everybody saw the pretty, and that's just I'm not good at the pretty. So marketing is not my thing. I'm not good at the pretty. I created some cool cases. They look nice. They function nice. And but then I have to be good at the pretty, which is the marketing and figuring out how to make them pop for the people who are out there in the internet world and just going to see this image. I've done it for a few okay looking ads, but I have no idea how to promote them, how to get them in front of the right people, how to create cool videos that people go, ooh. I've done that. I've looked at videos and gone, ooh. Go, I want that. And so I want somebody to do that for mine, but that stuff's expensive. I read somewhere that a good 3 to 5 minute Kickstarter video is upwards of $5,000 just for the video. It's not even the whole campaign, the whole marketing stint. It's just the video. And then the marketing stuff, you got to get out on Facebook and X and Instagram, and you got to get it in front of the right people, and you got to go find all the people, and you got to know who those are. Find the people with the dollars, and get it in front of their eyes and just push, push, push. And that's what the marketing team does. And that's another $4,000 or $5,000 to do that for 5 to 6 months. I think it typically takes 3 to 6 months a minimum to do a good marketing campaign for a Kickstarter. And I told these guys, I said, you know what? I'm going to call you when I've got $3,000 to $6,000 to throw your way, because I think it'll be helpful. I think it will help me to hit my Kickstarter. Look, my Kickstarter is going to be huge as it is anyway, so I just ask for an extra $3,000 to $6,000 to cover it, right? And in that sense, it's not going to be significant. I've seen plenty of game Kickstarters that have broke the number I'm shooting for, but it's the most I ever made on a Kickstarter was, well, the Kickstarter I last finished was 20. Came out to be, I think, a total with, it was, I think I made 15 on the Kickstarter and then an extra 5 or so on the manager. What do you call it? The campaign manager that you do at the end, where people are still allowed to buy and post. And so I had to get all those out. So I think during that, I mean, it worked out pretty good. I mean, all the costs were paid for, everything got covered, and that was the important thing, I guess. But I wish I had made enough. I have a spreadsheet that would have calculated how many I needed to make in order to have enough for the next. I didn't use it. It just made enough to say, okay, how much do I need to pay for everything I'm making? It's paranoia, really. It's a lack of confidence. It's like, oh no, but if I get stuck with all these units, I'm going to be in trouble. That's why you do a Kickstarter that's bigger, but I don't know if my Kickstarter could have made. I wasn't confident that my Kickstarter would have made double the money. Maybe it would have, but I don't know. And then if I don't make double, if you don't make it, then you don't get anything, in which case you don't make anything and nobody gets anything, right? I didn't want to fail. Honestly, it took me 3 tries. I failed 3 times. I finally just said, screw it, I'm going to make these anyway, and I'm just going to take the minimum. So I set it for a really low number. I made double 2.5 times what I put the Kickstarter at. And it did cover the cost, but I kind of gambled a little bit. I said, I'm going to cover the difference on my own. If I make this much, I'll cover the difference on my own. And then just hope I sell them to cover the expenses. And luckily, I ended up making enough to cover it without me having to take it out of my pocket. So that was nice. What's the 517? I gotta make some progress here. Let's move on. What was that? Create playbook creates a new game plan or updates an existing one. No, that's not what that does. Game situations. Oh, okay. So create a playbook. Generate IDs for game. This is game. Game situation is probably more along the lines of a play than it is a so playbook is made up of plays, which is made up of a combination of formats, routes, formations, and then that's made up of, well, it's a combination of formation routes and route actions. But what is this doing? So turns a dummy playbook for the given user ID. It's just a playbook, it's not a dummy. I'm no longer doing dummies. Ultimately, gonna have to get. Oh, are these lowercase? I don't even know if these are supposed to be lowercase or uppercase. Undeclared imported name. I think these are capital P. Because if they're coming off the types, these are going to be capital P. I think. If they're coming off the type, they're coming off with capital P. Because all my types are defined as capitals. You too, Log. Thanks for stopping by and visiting for a bit. You have a good one. All right, so I want to which reminds me, I need to start setting up my post stream appreciation grid screen where I for people who back me on my Patreon or my I'm gonna do that, or my Indiegogo, or any kind of backing that people provide to my stuff. Right now, I've got 2 people who've backed me in the history of my streaming, so it's not like it's a lot, but still, it's everybody is appreciated, even those that back me simply by subscribing. That's okay, because that helps build up momentum and opportunity for other people to see. All right, so if we're in the store, create indexes. What is the create indexes that it recommends? Context, Mongo index. There's probably not much to that. I just need to go. So Is it the special? I guess that is something I would search on, because I'd be filtering on whether it's an offense, defense, or special teams. I still think it's weird the way IDs work in Mongo. They often have their string prefixed numerics. I mean, they're strings, but they're strings prefixing a numeric ID, like defense 1, defense 2, defense 3, that kind of thing, versus just saying an ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, yeah, it's not very descriptive, but it's weird. I think it's weird. That kind of an index, it's not something I have ever created before. IDs are usually just numbers, right? They're not meant to be. I don't know. I'm just used to, it's like SQL. When you create an ID field, it's numeric. It's just what it is. It's a increasing value that goes by however many records you have, and the ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it's the same for every table. So they're all going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you just say, well, this is a this table ID, this is a that table ID, and for the records in that, get that ID. But now they're setting up these MongoDB uses more of a I'm curious. Disable. Oh, I don't need that. Okay, so why does NoSQL, specifically MongoDB, use string prefix numerics IDs versus just a incrementing ID? I have noticed that is more common in this Basically, MongoDB often use string prefix numeric IDs instead of traditional incrementing integers for several reasons related to scalability, flexibility, and use case considerations. A breakdown. No centralized ID generation. In relational databases, auto-incrementing IDs are typically managed by the database engine, which ensures uniqueness through a centralized mechanism. MongoDB is designed for distributed environments where centralized ID generation can become a bottleneck. Use custom string prefixed IDs allow clients to generate unique identifiers without relying on central authority. String prefix IDs can encode semantic meaning about the data. Example, defense 1, offense, offense. Can indicate defense and offense roles in sports-related application. This makes it easier for developers, systems, and end users to interpret IDs without querying the database. Improves clarity in debugging, logging, and API. Well, I mean, the logic behind why you would use it, how it's used in the code, makes sense. What I'm probably not even going to do is I'll probably do like D123 and O123 because I like minimum. It's just me. It's my thing. And I know what defense, offense, and special teams would be, or even trick plays or gimmick plays or whatever I'd call it, because there's enough letters and they're all different. And there's not that many types of things I would do with it. But I may even have like multiple numerics, like a defense could be a defensive zone or defensive man, or something that allows for, ultimately you're just grabbing them for their type, right? So a play type might call out different things. So actually so that would actually be wrong. It would just be defense, offense, and special, because if you're on a play type scenario, you're defining the play types. So this one just happens to be defense. Well, there's a bunch of defensive play types. Well, maybe not. Maybe there's 2 or 3. But you may have multiple play types for offense. Offense will have a lot because you got the different kinds of runs: run wide, run middle, run right, run left, blah 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 blah. Defense is gonna have you could do something like play types could be a formation definer. You could have a 5-2 defense. Maybe you just want to run a 5-2 defense. You don't even care what plays they call as long as it's a 5-2 defense. I want you to use a 5-2 defense when a nickel, I think it is. 5-2? No, I think a nickel is like 3-5 or something. You have a lot of linebackers. And I don't even think when you do a nickel, I think you have 5 guys, but I think 2 of them are corners. I think it's still 3 linebackers. It's just that they're all playing up, kind of like in a nickel position. And you got 3 guys on the line, 5 guys back, that's 8. Then you got your safety and a couple more corners taking care of people running away. So I'm not totally sure, but I think that's what the nickel is. All right. So, all right. I just need to get in that mindset. My brain just needs to start getting used. So my user IDs are probably going to be a combination of their username and numeric, which is what I'm noticing a lot of companies do. I mean, Watcher of Realms, Marvel Snap, and a couple other games I think I've played that ask you or what your user ID is, and your user ID is typically a numeric following a text, usually separated by an underscore. But I don't know if I'm going to do underscores. I don't like underscores. It's like, underscores bug me. I don't know, it's a way up here button. It's like when I'm typing, it's like, do I really need that? I mean, I guess the only reason you'd use an underscore, in fact, that's true. I may have to do that. Now that I think about it, I may have to separate. I may have to use an underscore because people use numbers in their names. And sometimes their names are numbers. People will create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as their user ID, which is stupid. All right, for all you gamers out there, come on. Put a little effort into your username. Dang it. Joe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is just no effort. Get it together and put some thought into it. Yes, I know there's a bajillion people playing your game and they all use the same user ID. And I'm telling you right now, I have 3 user IDs that I use on a regular basis. But a lot of times I get blocked out because the game already has somebody using my user ID. I'll tell you right now, those user IDs are taken in my game. There's only so many options. I will have every one of my user IDs in my game. So if you're playing against them, you're playing me. There will be nobody else playing them. Unless, of course, you create them with a number. Because guess what? I'm going to create them, and I'm going to have the only login to those user IDs. So this will be the only game in the world that I have all of my user IDs. Well, now how many game accounts will I need? I don't need that many, but I will have 3. I have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5. 5? That'd be cool to have all of them. And then I'll create different game plans, and then I'll just have it be one of the AIs. My IDs will all be AIs. And then I'll use them if I want to in a league or something. So if you play me in a league, you'll know that I'm there, and I'm going to try to beat you. So, yeah. That's the plan anyway. Those will be the first ones I use. I should probably start using them now. I have a user 1, 2, 3, but that's kind of lame, right? So I should start using one for my ID. And then I'll create other ones later. The first accounts will all be my user IDs. And so, anyway, that's that. But yeah, I am going to separate them by an underscore. I've decided. My user ID, all of my IDs, I guess, will be something prefixed underscore number. I mean, I guess they don't have to have an underscore if it's a system ID, because there's nobody creating that. But then there's the issue of play creation. I don't know if I'm going to allow play creation, because I think those are cards I want to provide. I want plays to be cards. Because I want to be able to add more. I want to give more stuff to people. I want more things to give. I don't know if I'm going to do the gear. Some games do gear. I don't know. Gear seems hokey to me. You know? I mean, plus, do I really want something that adds... I'm a little concerned about power creep and things that... Because once you start creating non-standard objects, things that aren't part of the game, that don't do something specifically... you can get power creep. Well, when are you going to have this that does this, and you start having more and more abilities and powers and things, and it just breaks the game. And I don't want that. I want the game to stay the game. So nobody's like, ooh, well, the only reason I'm losing is because he's got blah, blah, blah on his guys. And it's because he's been playing forever, and he's he's been able to buy up all the cards, and he's got all the good cards, and he's just whooping me because he's got all the good cards. I don't want people to lose solely because the cards they have on their team is better. And if I did something like a gear that changed things, I would make it change the value of your player. So if your salary cap would be affected by anything you put in, because it's a balance. The salary cap is the balancer. So anything you do, anything I put in that would change the abilities of a player in the field, it's going to affect the salary cap. I'm not going to just allow teams to just get stupid strong. If I end up wanting to put things in that are going to make characters change their stats, it's going to be affecting their salary cap. So if your player might go from a $5 million a year player to a $7 million a year player, or $8 million, or whatever the key element is that generates the balance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create a number of teams out of each season. I would like to be able to generate out of one season's worth of stats 10 to 15 teams at least, because there's a lot of players that may not even be, they may not have the stats necessary, but I like to be able to build up 10 to 15 players of stats. So the trick is out of 10 to 15 teams, and then when they start, and I want to be able to do it out of, maybe even create more. I think when we first get this game out, it's got to have enough, because what's going to end up happening is people are going to be given the very basics of a team. Very basics, like low-level players. Come nowhere near the actual salary cap of the game. But they can start getting players and start getting closer to those salary caps. And I will already know kind of what a salary cap team would look like, and allow people to build those up. And I would like to come into the game with several seasons of players. I don't know yet how I'm going to do this, all these things. There's a lot. Because one of the things I noticed that when I bought the stats for 2010 or whatever, when I built my spreadsheet of stats, I noticed that I'm going to have to use defaults for a lot of players. If you have 300 players in the league, or 400 players, whatever it is, it's probably more than that, because you have 30 teams all with 45, 50 starters. So what is that? That's actually thousands of players, right? So if you have 30 teams with 50 players, that's 50? Is that right? 30 teams with 50 players. So you got 30 times 100 is 3,000. So that's about 1,500 players in the league. So, that's if it's 50. I don't even know how much it is. I thought that you could have up to 65 during the preseason, but that's minimum of 1,500 players to build your teams out of. But I don't think most of those players either never play, they don't have any stats in Stats Inc. So there's nothing to work from. You could theoretically put them in the league and then just give them a bunch of defaults, which would be like low, very basic numbers, a bunch of guys that maybe never started or never did anything. So everything that they don't have stats for would just be a default, which is a low number that everybody gets. And it may be very difficult. It'd be tough because I don't even know how to even... I have to figure out how I would even give them a growth value, because I don't know what they would grow to, because I don't know what they're capable of. They're like the blank canvas of characters. Can these guys ever be great? I don't know. They're nobodies. A lot of these guys will never be on. They won't be on anyone's team the next year. They'll be filtered in and out, and they may not get anything. Because if they never had any stats in a year, what am I going to use to determine what their stats are? Don't know. So that's why I got to do a few years. I'd like to be able to put players in that actually have valid stats. I don't know what EA does. Does EA just make up a bunch of players? Or do they just make up stats for everybody? I guess every team has to be made up of real players. So they must just put all the players in the league, and then if they're on the bench, they just give them generic stats. I don't know what they do. Because you might play them because you need them. Because the thing is, I need to have low-level players so that people have something to grow towards. So they can get the good players eventually, right? To get the higher players, be able to buy cards and get cards and grow their team and get their players in leagues to get stronger and better players all the time. And, you know, I would like to be able to just start offering what I've thought about doing is even giving people some good players, but they don't actually own the cards. I want to give people cards they own at the start. This is the cards you get to run your game. You have something that can grow and start to get abilities and bonuses and appearance stuff, and maybe even grow to be something. You know, become a better player. And maybe I'll do some random stuff to try to make them. Maybe they just start off super weak, but they have a lot of growth potential because they're invisible. They're unknowns. And so maybe I'll do that. Make a lot of those bench guys just have unknown potentials. And have the game do some stuff to kind of allow them, even though they're pretty bad to start, they have the potential to do more. They have different potentials. It could be good, could be bad. You just don't know because they're a wild card. And yeah, I'm gonna have to have some people in there that are just unknowns. And whereas you got other guys that are already pretty, come in as pretty decent because they're known. We know what they can do. We know what they're going to do. And the potentials are different. They'll be defined. So says me, the developer. Okay, so, all right, so let's go back here. I've got my place. I've got this set up now. Now, I think I'm going to need to do something like, let's see, what have we got here? We got the playbook. What did he do different? Playbook. Oh, did I do that wrong? Oh, am I doing my arrays wrong? I'm doing my arrays wrong. This is me learning Go. Okay, so that's better. All right, so we got my plays. A play is made up of these guys. All right, so we're gonna go play. We're gonna change the IDs to strings, like it suggests. That's going to have to change everywhere in the world now. Everywhere that I have that. I guess it's not that many places. But does the game situation have those? The game plan? I think it does because it's the plays that are assigned to the situation. Yeah, favorite play ID, play type ID. Alright, so these got to be strings. Boy, that's going to be fun. Changing all that stuff. And this is an integer because it has to be. It's an ID, but it's going to be 0, 1, 2, or 3. Or 1, 2, or 3. Or 4, or whatever I put in there. This is just what team. There's only 3 teams on a field, right? There's special teams, there's offense, and there's defense. and each one has its own set of things. But this will just allow you to create game situations for each. Special teams is special. It's got a different layout. It's got a different everything for your creating your game situations, because you do different things in special teams. They're special. Minutes left, half minutes left game, leading by play type ID. Wait, did I not add? Oh wow. Oh, goal distance. Okay, that's the one I need. I thought there was another value I needed to add. Goal distance is position on field though. Oh yeah, I needed to come up with I need to add for this a greater than or less than option. So if you're dealing with, if it's greater than 4th and 2 or less than 4th and 2 or 4th and 3 or whatever you want to do, you can do a range. But the problem is, I was thinking, well, maybe I always do greater than, but that doesn't work. You have to kind of be able to pick.
Soup's ready.
Oh, all right. What kind of soup did you make?
Mom made dumplings.
Oh, nice. Thanks, babe. So let's go with. I think I just got to add it. Stop dilly-dallying. It's like I'm thinking I go with greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. And you can't do both, right? Because oh man, because if I don't want to have all 4 options. That's too many things. I can say greater than, but then somebody's like, well, no, I think we can do greater than or less than. Because if you want to have, I mean, yeah, greater than or less than. Because that'll allow you to do either direction, right? You can just say, you can have 2 2s. You can have less than 2, and then you'd have, or less than 3 or greater than 2. All right. But what if somebody, I gotta consider the conditions. What if somebody were to do something like less than 3 or greater than 1? Now you have 2 in there, which hits both of them. And then I have to start having conditions that check. Say, you can't do this or you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. That doesn't work. You have conflicting options. And I don't want to have an error or a warning on their game situations. I want it to be like, you can't do it. Just block them, saying you can't. There's already a situation that covers what you're doing. I mean, I guess you can have overlapping ones. You're just going to, no, because the game situations have to be unique. No, I think it works. If somebody does something goofy like that, I'm just going to process them in order. So, first come, first serve, man. It's going to go in the database, and if the very first one it sees that matches a situation, it's going to execute it. And it's going to save them in the order you create them. So, if you don't like it, you need to come and fix it. I'll have to put some kind of comment in there that says this is what's going to happen if you do this. So if you have, say for example, you create one that's based on goal to go or distance to goal, and it overlaps with one of your 4th and 2 options. But I think ultimately, down and distance is going to take precedence over goal distance. No, I think I'm just going to tell them this is going to process in order. So, and so maybe I have to give them a way to change the order. So if they want certain things to happen more importantly, I may have to give them a way to change the order. So they can say, okay, well, this option needs to go first. I need this to be more important. Or I always do certain processes first. Like I would always say, the leading by options might be first. And if none of the leading buys qualify, then we go, or if there's more than one, then it would look at maybe by first down distance. And then first down distance would be by play. Because you might behave differently. You want the leading by to manage. That's kind of like leading by, minutes left. You know, maybe it's leading by is first, and then minutes left be second. And then it would be yeah, I think I have to create the order. I think I'm going to create the order, and that'll just sort them. So if you create a bunch, and then when you save them, it's going to resort them, and it's going to reload them. It's going to sort them based on these priorities, and it's going to always put them out. Like if you refresh the page, or if you as you create them, they're getting saved. And maybe at that point we reload them. You save it, reload them. So it puts everything in the right order. As soon as you say add, and then just puts it in where it's going to fall. And then people will know that your leading buys are going to come first. And then of the leading buys, it's going to check for minutes left and half. And if none of these qualify, it'll go down to the next step. If there's like, if like you don't have ones for leading by, if it's a tie game, or you don't have ones for, trailing, you're not trailing on anything and you only have trailing ones in there, it's going to still check the leading buys left first. I mean, I'm trying to think of what's the most important in a game. I mean, what's the first consideration a coach is going to make? I mean, it's like in the beginning of the game, you're not even thinking of time or leading buys. That stuff don't even matter. So maybe it's minutes left in half. So first, because you don't really start changing your game plan until a certain amount of time, and the leading buys are a thing, right? You might say, if we're trailing by 35, our odds of passing just went up. I'm going to do more passing. I don't care what you're doing. My favorite play is a pass. It's just what it is. But it does have to look at every situation. It just has to sort first, right? So if you're saying on 4th and 1, I want you to say go for a run, even though you have a set that if you're down by 35, go for pass. It's like the priority, if they conflict, has got to go to I think the down is a required field now that I think about it. I think the game situation actually requires you to always have a down. What down is it that you're considering? And then certain other things have to be in there. I think that would make a lot of difference. So we go to store. Oh, is it not store? Service? Oh yeah, okay. So we got, these things have to be, at least one of these have to be in there. You either care about the minutes, the time, and the leading buys. One of those has to be present. Which makes sense. I mean, minutes left in half. I wonder if I should default these. Minutes left in half is 30. Minutes left in game is 60. Leading by 0. So 30, 60, 0 would be the defaults. So when the game starts, or every situation starts with those things, and then you can adjust it however you want. And then 0 is a tie, right? Because you're not leading or you're trailing. And then you also need, if you just do those, you can just do those. But do you care? Yeah, I feel like you might just pass more all the time if you're trailing by a bunch. Or maybe you run more because you're winning by a lot. You know, you just do those things. And you don't care about the individual down so much. You just do it. And then, but what has to be in there? You have, if blah or blah or blah, down, one of minimum left and leading by, and the first preferred play type. The first preferred play type must be set. Why do I have a requirement of favored play ID? I don't think you need to have a favored play ID. Oh. Or. Oh, okay, no. This is one or. So this is basically saying, or both of these are empty. One of these have to be set. Okay, so this has to be set. One of these has to be set, and one of these has to be set on every single situation. I'm trying to decide if down is truly a required thing. Because wouldn't you be able to just say, my favorite play type when I'm trailing would be a pass or a run? You just want to do more of them. I mean, most people are going to create situations. You may set up, like, who is it? Mike Shanahan. He was known for scripting like the first 10 or 15 plays of the game. His offense with the Broncos, when they won the first two Super Bowls, their first two Super Bowl victories, he used to script their first 10, 15, 20 plays. This is just what they did. He would say, first down's this, second down's this, third down this, fourth down this. And if things didn't happen, he would just play them on the next drive, next play. And it would just always be what he did every play. If there's this much time or that, I mean, basically, he would know what his script was, and he would just go through those plays. So you would probably have to do something like, I think you could script it with my situation set up here. If you wanted to script the first 10 plays of every game, you could just say if there's first down and there's this much time left, second down if there's this much time left, third down if there's much time left, fourth down, and you just like maybe increment it for every couple of minutes. You just make sure that the first down, the first 4 downs are covered for the first 4 minutes, and then in the next 4 minutes you do the next 4, and then the next 4 minutes you do the next 4. And this way you'll be calling those plays as you hit those things, and you're kind of scripting how you're going to go down and drive. And you may even maybe you just call a bunch of this different plays. You literally call, if there's 15 minutes on the clock, if there's 14 minutes on the clock, and you literally set up your first 10 plays so that you could drive down. But then you'd have to know that it'd be hard if you're doing the down though. It'd be kind of cool if you could script an exact setup. But how would you do that with this scenario? Because what if the other team scored already? You go by leading by? I think the best chance you have is to go by minutes left in half and minutes left in game. And then you would just do your favorite play. And it'd still be kind of a rough script, right? Because this game doesn't allow you to just say, this is the play I want to run. Because you're not the coach. You are simply the GM who hired a coach, and you kind of give him kind of what you want to see. So he still makes his choices. But you couldn't script it outright, but you can give a high probability of certain things happening throughout the course of the first 20 plays. And the more precise, and really all you're doing is increasing the odds of those calls, right? Because you're putting them in. You could say run, and then find 2 plays that are pretty much the same, and you're going to call one of those plays. So you're going to create scenarios where you're creating pretty high probability of getting exactly the plays you want to be called. Now, I'm trying to determine if down is absolutely required. Now, you do have to say what kind of play you want. That can't be blank. You have to pick a play type or a favored play. Same thing. You can do both. All you're doing is filtering then, trying to optimize your options. If you play type, it's that type that's more likely to get called. If you call a favored play, it's that play that's more likely to be called. So like say you have a 40% chance at a run, while if you say a favored play, that play gets a 40% chance to be called. And so it is still a run, but it's that one play is going to have a higher chance of being called over all the other plays. So, you might even, maybe I do something like, if you have both, you get your odds on the run get selected, and then you got a 40% chance that if it's a run, or if it's that type, that it's that play that gets selected. So you got really good chance that it's going to call. You're basically creating double filters to generate an opportunity for that play to get called. And if for some reason it's not, you could still have a chance at that play getting called, because it's going to still be that play. It's kind of like an override opportunity, second chance at getting a run play. But I am trying to decide if you want to do something more generic and you don't really want to do down management. Like maybe you're just going to let the game keep doing what it does on fourth downs, punt or whatever. You might not have a down. You always have to have a play, and some condition needs to go with it. First down. I would like to ask for as minimum stuff for the situation as possible, for people to have different stuff. But I think the more detailed the definition is, I think those are going to come first. Just because. So if you put down a down, it's going to come ahead of one that just says, do this. I just feel like the things that sort it should be required. saying. That's what I'm having trouble with in my head. The things that sort it should be required. Now, play type and favored won't sort it. They're going to be what they are. But the conditions, if you don't want to go by down, but you want to increase based on how much time is left, the type of plays that are getting called, which one takes priority? If you've got minutes left in half, minutes left in game, and leading by, you know what I might do? I might do minutes left in half, minutes left in game. I might just go minutes left first half. How about if I just take the left out? Minutes first half. Remaining. Oh, what's a good way to do that? Min left half, min left game. Ultimately, the goal here is to give up a good options, to give as much flexibility as possible. Play type and favorite player, the only things I know for sure that should be required. If those, maybe I just say one of those or the down have to be a present. Down in distance is, if it's kind of like if down is selected, you could do down with the type of play to increase your odds of not punting. I am stumped, I'm telling you. But I also want to give maximum functionality to this. It's going to make it, the more complex it is, the less thought out it is, the more difficult the testing is going to be. Right? So I'm going to fail more to get what I want to work if I don't get the right scenario. And if I lock it down too much, I'm going to be like, ugh, this needs to be there. I really think that distance is the only thing. Distance, and you have to have min left in half, min left in game, leading by. You know what? And those values, I mean, they can be. Zero is valid. Zero should be valid, right? I mean, down is not a valid zero. I mean, if it's zero, but minutes left in half in game would be zero. That's the end of the game. But you're basically saying a leading by is actually a number. But I guess if you leave it blank, it's zero and it doesn't matter. So. But if all of those are zero, maybe you want it to be based on leading by zero. I'm thinking the down should just be one of the four. Minutes left in half, minutes left in game, leading by, or at least the down has to be identified in the game. Because you might do something different just on fourth down. Stick to my play, like maybe you're only down by 3. Stick to the progress, but if there's less than 2 minutes left in game, on fourth down, go for it. Because, or you could also, if you want to make that a little bit more precise, say, well, if it's less than 2 minutes left, either going to kick a field goal, but you got to determine the yard distances, and that's what you'll be using for that. Hopefully, you would know that you don't want to kick a field goal from your own 3. You're probably not going to make it. Probably not going to make a 110-yard field goal. It's probably not happening. Not to mention, you'll be doing it from a short field because kicking from the 3 is only 13 yards, and most kickers want, they want to be back. What is it? At least they're usually back 17 yards. 17 from the line of scrimmage. So, is it 17 really? Oh, it's 17 because they have to kick. Yeah, it's 110. Yeah, it's 17 because you're back 7, but you have to kick through the end zone, so that's 10 more. So that's 17. Yeah. So yeah, you're not that far back, but. So, yeah, I think I'm going to change this requirement. I'm going to say you have to have one of the 4, but you don't have to have down. Down doesn't have to exist because you may only be setting up a general condition. Let's do this. One of down, min left, half min left game, or leading by. People act different for the minutes left in the half and minutes left in game. And minutes left in game could change a little bit, right? I mean, you could go from 15 to 2 to 1 to 15 because it's overtime. But I think I may have the logic. No, I think it's going to be the same. Why would you go for it on 4th down in overtime? You wouldn't go for it on 4th down. And you're not going to be trailing. So if minutes left may matter, but that's not going to be until the end of it. So you're just going to run your game and you're going to hope you score. You're not going to change your game plan at the beginning of overtime. Who does that? Nobody. If you're good at something, you stick with it. Now, what I may have to do is put some logic in for, what do you want to do if you win the toss? I got to write that down. I haven't put that in, but I need to have that into my game situation or a game plan. Let's go to my. Should I do that in ClickUp? Let's go do it in ClickUp. Because oh no, wrong one. So in ClickUp is where I've decided to keep track of I just started assembling my ClickUp because I have to move all of my stuff over from from Azure because I'm moving away from Azure. I've decided I'm using ClickUp. All right, so play execution, game plan, game simulator logic, web UI. Let's go ahead and create a new folder. Android UI. New folder. Epic. Is it Epic? Let's just go lowercase. It's too much. All right, so we're going to say game plan. What are space statuses? Statuses. I don't know what space status is. Inherit from... Oh, space statuses. Oh. That's the statuses I defined for the space. Okay. Wait, what did I do? Oh, did I not actually create it? Dumb. All right. I always use that as a thing. Create, okay. All right, so I got the game plan. Now in the game plan, we have a feature. We're going to call it feature is going to be offense. And then we're going to say feature defense, feature special teams, because ultimately we're going to have things that have to be created for both, all these different things. But then we're going to have feature miscellaneous. Game plan. Miscellaneous. Game situations. On this one, we're going to go here. We're going to add a subtask, and this is going to be a PBI, or how would we call it? A task, right? PBI. The PBI for this one, I got to put it down right now, is going to be coin toss decision. And then we're going to go here. We're going to go edit. No, that's not what I want. Edit. We're going to description. At the start of the game, what do you want to do? I'm going to have coin toss decision. We may have to do this for both. During at game start or OT start, game start and, all right, how about this? Options for kick or receive on both. For options for both kick and receive for both game start and OT. Should your team win toss? All right. I don't think that's going to be a big deal, but I'm not putting it in right now, but that's, I've got to have that option, right? Because I want to be able to have like a little graphic that goes, at the game start, you see a coin toss. Heads, your team wins. You have your team, the Broncos have selected to kick or to receive or whatever the heck. And you can decide that also as part of your game plan. So that'd be kind of cool. So like I said, I'm going to have everything. Everything. There's going to be penalties and season-ending injuries, and it's going to all be there. Now, hopefully at the commonality of an actual league. So, season-ending injuries shouldn't be that common. But teams get them. I mean, think about all the players that end up on IR. There's a lot of players that end up on IR. I think every team in the league has at least one player that ends up on IR every year. And there's some that end up out for the season longer. There's different ranges of IR. You don't have to be on IR forever, but I think it's at least 6 weeks, right? I think if you're on IR, it gives you, basically the thing is it allows them to bring players up. You can bring a guy from the practice squad or whatever. I'm how does the practice squad affect salary cap? How does that work? In the NFL, does the practice squad affect salary cap? It must, right? Because you can't like keep a bunch of superstars. During the regular season, practice squad salaries are treated separately from active rosters cap hit. Each practice squad player earns a weekly salary based on the collective bargaining agreement. These salaries are standard practice squad salaries for most players. This is a set minimum, e.g. 12, 20. Veteran practice squad players, practice squad salaries. Teams can negotiate higher weekly pay for veterans, but these salaries do not count against the cap unless the player is promoted to the active roster. From the start of the new league year to this final roster cut down, only the top 51 highest cap hits on a team's roster count against the salary cap. Really? From the start of the new league year to the final roster cut down, practice squad contracts signed during this time typically fall outside the top 51 and do not affect the cap unless the player is promoted to the active roster. Promotion to active roster. For practice squad players promoted to the active roster, their salary immediately adjusts to match the league minimum for active roster players, or whatever terms are agreed upon. That's kind of cool if you think about it. if you're on the practice squad, and the league minimum, I think, is like, depending on the position, I believe, anywhere from $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to possibly over $1 million, depending on what it is. And that's a big pay cut, a pay growth. You just stick around for $12,000 to $20,000 per week. So what's that? 16 weeks, you're making what? 150 grand? No, maybe 300,000, right? 20,000? No, 20,000 for 5 weeks is 100 grand. So yeah, you're making about 300 grand, a little over 300 grand for being on the practice squad. And I assume that goes into the playoffs if you make it. So if your team makes it, so you're probably talking 180,000. That's pretty good. 160,000 maybe for the regular season. What, there's 18 weeks, and I doubt preseason matters, but it's $360,000. $360,000 if you're a $20,000 person. Obviously, if you're a $12,000 person, that goes down by some amount, probably about 100,000 less. But well, I guess if it's it's probably about 100 some thousand less. But still, you're making pretty good money. And then you get to the league minimum, which is going to be a minimum of 500 to $1 million. So you're going to get a big jump in pay just for making it to the, just getting promoted. But some guys get promoted and then demoted right away. It's like, whoop, boom, your salary jumps around. That's like, eek. But so I think in my league, it might be interesting to allow a practice squad. But the problem with the practice squad is you can't put a lot of really good players in the practice squad, right? Because for one, that's not, I mean, everybody gets the draft, right? But how many, I mean, I don't know how many people can even be, I mean, I'm going to have to look at all that, but we may have to implement a practice squad. Let's go, all right, so we're going to go with this, and we'll hit save. I guess I don't need to save, it's already on. All right, so we got the coin toss. Let's make sure that's saved, that we have our stuff. It didn't say save, but yeah, it's there. Okay. All right, so one of the things I want to do is let's go Game plan. We're going to create one folder, and this is just going to be a proposed item. This is a This is a epic, and this is a practice squad proposed. Now this just means I'll look into it. It's not a sure thing, and it probably won't be making it onto the. It probably won't be making it into the first rendition of this. But these are things that I want to put in later, or maybe it's an option for later. I just got to decide how we're going to load it, put all that stuff in. It's just more players that are available to you, and how do we implement, the salary cap and all the stuff that goes along with it. But I think that'd be all kind of cool. So we're going to rename this because I didn't put the epic on it. Offensive special teams, miscellaneous game situations, coin toss situation, coin toss decisions, special teams. I haven't implemented special teams either, but special teams is going to have to be some. Oops. Special teams is going to be something like we got to. Onside kick. We'll call it PBI. Onside kick. Conditions. Situation. It's going to be like onside kick. And what are the conditions? How much are you trailing by? How much time is left in the game? Just basic stuff that it wouldn't be like you can add a bunch of different lines. There's not a lot of situations. But one of them is two-point conversion. Now this, you might have multiple lines. You might have a lot of lines. Or, you might say leading by situations, or trailing by, or point differential. What might define? Maybe that's what I would do. Maybe I use point differentials. Or maybe you don't care, based on time left in the half or in the game or whatever. It's more important to you at different times, right? Are you going to go for it or not? Generally, people use point differentials, whether they go for 2-point conversions. And even then, I'm probably not going to have it be a fixed value. I haven't decided, but it'd be like, you might do 2-point conversions just because you think your team is good enough to do 2-point conversions, so you go for it. Maybe there's a bug in my game where the defenses can't stop 2-point conversions, and then you take advantage of that, so you just keep going for it. And then I slap you on the head, and I write you and say, stop taking advantage of the weak points in my game. I'm going to make it so this is harder. And then you're going to be like, yeah, you should do that. It's like, yeah, well, whatever. You're breaking my game. And it's like, what other things? Field goals? Well, like, yeah, that's another one. PBI. We got... field goal attempts. And PBI, we're going to do this one as a proposed. We're going to say free kicks. Free kick. Proposed. Proposed just means right now, not planning to implement. But I would like to have that be something that's in here as an option. Is the pooch punt even legal? Remember the Broncos John Elway used to do the pooch punt. That was awesome. Nobody ever does that anymore. I don't even know if it's called, if teams ever do the pooch punt. I think it'd be fun to have that in the game. Where they go for it on 4th down. The other team's like, okay, we're all ready. And then takes a snap and he just punts it. The other team's like, we don't have anyone back there. Now it's not a way you can get it, but you can. Once you do that, the other you just run down there and down the ball because there's no one down there to do anything. So the idea is that you don't have to be able to kick a lot. Pooch punt's usually done like in that weird gray zone where you really can't. You're not sure your kicker can kick that 57-yarder, but your quarterback has a little bit of a leg, so he's able to kick it a little bit. So he might punt it down there and put it on the 10 or 15-yard line. I'm curious if this knows the answer to that. Is the pooch punt still a thing in the NFL? Ah, they have. I didn't know they did it. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have both done that. Crazy. Huh. Huh. But anyway, yeah, that'd be cool. I want to put that in. That'll be a feature. We'll call that proposed. Anything I put in as proposed is in fact, I think there's even a tag on here, right? No, status. Most everything that's not marked as proposed is marked as planning. It's got to be designed, planned, or just done. What is the status? Where's the status thing here? Oh, I have to click on this thing. Ah, status. We'll call this idea. All right. That was the same thing. Status. Idea. I think idea should be proposed. I'm probably the one who created that one. That's I probably should change that to proposed. I like that. But and scoping is just trying to decide what that means. It's not fully defined. It's not even designed yet. You're just like, what is this going to be? What's this going to look like? And so you would scope it. You're defining the scope of this particular task. How big is it? How much work is it going to be? Blah, 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 blah. I think these are small enough that we can just scope them as a PBI because I don't think they're going to be that big. But maybe they will be. Maybe they're actually features eventually. But right now, and really, it's not here. They're just PBIs because this is just not even the implementation of what it is, what it does. This is just the conditions in which you would do those items. And so that's pretty simple. You're just saving the information, the situations. But okay, so I'm taking a break. I'm going to stop. I will be back, obviously. Lots to do, lots to go on, and I will continue to plug away, getting the planning and all the other parts done, which I'll probably be doing offline as I move on to the next steps. I got to figure out a way to invite somebody else to this. Because I'm going to be adding, making this a big, crazy project. Some of this stuff will be done already, but yeah, lots to do. All right, so I'm going to stop for now. Till next time, you take it easy.